Hi there, and welcome to this video essay about Rayla and Callum from the Dragon Prince. Until now, all my videos have been about Arcane, and it is still my biggest love. But before Arcane came out, I was hooked on the Dragon Prince. My daughter introduced me to it, so it's both for children and adults, like She-Ra. It's a great show, quite like both Arcane and She-Ra in the fact that it's a world where issues of race, gender, and sexuality aren't apparent. People can love whichever gender and race they like, and no one bats an eye. Oh, and spoiler alert from now on, go check out the show on Netflix if you haven't seen it yet. It's worth a binge. My main question for this video is, does love give you wings? And yes, I'm talking about the amazing finale of Season 3, where both Rayla and Callum throw themselves off a cliff. It is a major moment with loads of subtext. In order to fully understand what's going on, I'll explore how love is to be understood in connection with primal magic. My focus is, of course, on the central love story between Rayla and Callum, so I'll start by mapping out their relationship. I adore them, they're so cute! But they're not just an opposites attract story, not just a shallow feel-good story made for children. What is it that makes them such a great couple, full of complexity and depth? Rayla and Callum are thoroughly fleshed out characters in their own right, but I won't go into long characterizations of each of them. Instead, I'll use the image of Yin and Yang in order to illustrate how well they're matched. This symbol fits them quite well, and yet in some places it doesn't, which only makes their story more nuanced. Traditionally, Yin and Yang is an ontological symbol, seen to represent being for a person. And it shows how there are always contrary forces at work in a person's life. Each characteristic on one side of the symbol has its opposite on the other, and they complement each other. And the transition between the two sides is never clear-cut, never just black and white, which we also see in how each paisley has a drop of the other in it. So the ideal is for a person to toe the line between the two opposite forces. Though Rayla and Callum of course have aspects of both sides of being, I will venture to say that they each represent one half, which is also why they fit together so well. Rayla represents the black yang side of the symbol in that she is female and of the moon. She is literally a so-called moon shadow elf, and her magic ability is tied to the moon, strongest when it is full. Her training as an assassin further emphasizes her yang traits, since she can melt into the night, disappear into shadows, basically becoming invisible. She is also very secretive. It takes a while for her to open up. So far, Rayla is a perfect shoe-in for Yang, also in the sense that Yang represents quiet and the unknown, demonstrated in her capacity to travel in the dark, unseen and unheard. Yang is also of the netherworld, or seen as the other, and from the human perspective, Rayla is indeed out of this world and fundamentally different, especially when it comes to magic. She's not entirely negative in general, she has her fun moments of sarcasm, but to begin with, she has a sad outlook on life as a misfit in her community of both elves and assassins. The aspects that don't really fit Rayla are weakness, passivity, and disorder, because she is physically strong and active as well as very disciplined and well-trained in her sword skills. She thinks before she acts, something she herself sees as a problem, because it breaks with the assassin code.
You will.
Callum represents the white yin side in that he is male and human, as in of this world. He's an open and overt person. There doesn't seem to be anything about him that is not visible at first glance. What you see is what you get. He has a sunny personality despite having trouble with his role as a prince. And he's definitely also loud. He talks quite a lot and asks a lot of questions. In that sense, he's also active and positive, acting on his feelings and going for what he wants, not letting adversity get him down. The traits that don't seem to fit Callum are strength and order, because he lacks physical prowess and cannot fight with a sword or ride a horse. He's very clumsy and impulsive, which leads to many mishaps and chaotic scenes. So, by now I think you've noticed that many of the qualities and aspects that Rayla has, Callum doesn't, and vice versa. She is the moon, he's the sun. She's secretive, he's open. She's quiet, he's loud, and so on. So they complement each other perfectly, in that what one person lacks, the other can supply in plenty, thereby making a complex whole, yin and yang, together. This is also shown in that each character doesn't just have traits from one side, they also contain qualities from the other side of the symbol, illustrated by the dots on the symbol. So, where Callum doesn't comprise of order, he's quite chaotic, Rayla correspondingly represents order. Furthermore, Rayla's colouring is white and Callum's is dark. He's weak and she's strong. The part about strength is a little more nuanced, however, in that where Rayla is physically strong, she's less strong mentally, though she is quite intelligent. But she doubts herself a lot and is afraid to tell Callum and Ezran the truth about their father for quite a long time. On the other hand, Callum is physically weak and clumsy, but he's quite strong mentally, being the first human maybe ever to learn primal magic on his own. He's an artist and a nerd, and moreover has the emotional strength to take care of Ezran despite his young age. So again, they complement each other. I really like how it's the female part of the couple who's the balanced and tough protector, while the male character is the soft and awkward thinker. Moving past the yin-yang symbol, Rayla and Callum also have some common traits that are actually what make them strike up with each other to begin with. For one, they both grow up as orphans and misfits that seek connection. For another, they're equally active characters in that they make choices for themselves and others. Also, they're quite compassionate. They value life, whether it be human, elf, animal or plant, over ambition and power. Lastly, they have a tendency for self-sacrifice, setting truth and justice over their own well-being. And because they embark on an important mission, facing dangers together and constantly saving each other through their unique traits, they gradually learn to trust and respect each other as first friends and then lovers. Rayla gets there first. Meeting someone as open and loving as Callum has an effect on her, and since she desperately needs love and a sense of belonging in her life, she realizes how much more than a friend he could be when he almost dies. Callum, on the other hand, has to get over his juvenile infatuation with Claudia before he can see Rayla in a romantic light. Also, I'm not sure the thought of someone as awesome as Rayla, loving someone like him, has entered into his skull. So yes, I slapped my forehead and growled, "Boys!" at his reaction to Rayla's first kiss, but he certainly makes up for it later with some rather big gestures. So while their relationship is not without its issues and has a rough start, perhaps also because they're so fundamentally different, they make perfect sense to me, because they seem to be two halves of a whole and yet so much more than just the sum of their parts. The moments when they finally start realizing this are wonderful. Ain't love grand? So, let's get back to my question. Does love give you wings? Is Callum's love for Rayla what makes him able to do primal magic? Is love an integral part of primal magic? Does he have to be a part of a whole, both yin and yang, for him to do the spell? Because at first, he's not able to perform the spell to give him mage wings, even though he has already learned the Sky Arcanum. The wings don't come until he says,
Rayla, I love you.
In that sense, love does give him wings. But in my opinion, it's not as clear-cut as that. In order to really understand what happens in that scene, we need to explore the nature of primal magic. In order to do primal magic, one needs to connect to the elements that each branch of magic represents. Magical beings, such as dragons and elves, are born with a connection to a specific primal source. Whatever facilitates this connection is called the Arcanum. It seems to lie within magical beings like a part of their soul, and they know it and use it without much practice apparently. All they need to learn to make more complex magic and become a mage like Blue Jane is to learn spells and runes to go with their primal magic. Getting to know the Arcanum is a difficult and lengthy process for Callum, who, as a human, is born without this connection to magic. To tap into magic, humans normally need to draw on the life force of a magical being, leeching it the moment it dies. This is called dark magic, and it's an abomination in the eyes of Zadia, so Callum wants to access primal magic instead. But without the primal source in the sphere, he can't do it. Something that elves just do, he needs to understand spiritually and philosophically first. And it seems that before he can get to this understanding of the Arcanum, he also needs to understand himself, his strengths and weaknesses, his beliefs and his desires, his mind, body, and soul. We see this quite clearly in his near death dream experience after using dark magic. So, to sum up, primal magic adds something to the world, it doesn't take away. It's not destruction. It's not the easy solution. Instead, primal magic is connection. Connection to yourself, connection to others, and connection to the elements. And one has to know and understand said connection. Okay, so by the time the Fantastic Four make it to the Stormspire, Callum has learned the Sky Arcanum. So why can't he do the Mage Wings right away? The Skywing Elves connect to the Sky Arcanum, like him. So that first huge step is out of the way. He has even said earlier,
I am the wing!
but it still doesn't come to him until he is hurtling towards the ground. Jumping off the cliff after Rayla is a huge leap of faith, and it helps to jumpstart Callum's grasp on the Arcanum, because it seems that the greater the need for the magic, the greater the likelihood that it will succeed. But I think other things have to align too, because it doesn't work right away. He doesn't just spout wings because he's falling to his death or because he wants to catch Rayla. Though the timing of the I love you does seem to indicate that Callum forms wings because he loves Rayla, I don't think he discovers or realizes his feelings in this moment. This has, in my opinion, already happened beforehand. We see him trying to find a moment earlier to tell her how he feels, but he is interrupted. At least, that's my interpretation of this moment. Therefore, something other than just love is at work here too. This scene actually reminds me of a scene from The Matrix, which bothered me a whole lot the first time I saw it. It's the scene where Neo has just been shot by Agent Smith inside the Matrix, while Trinity is with him in the real world. She says that he can't be dead because she was foretold that she would fall in love with the One, and she loves him, so he's the one. I interpreted this to mean that he's the one because she loves him, and I thought this idea was too romantic, definitely not in keeping with the rest of this most excellent philosophical sci fi masterpiece. But then I realized it's the other way round. She loves him because he's the one, or to be more precise, the Oracle told her she would fall in love, and coincidentally, that man would be the one. Her love isn't the catalyst here, it's a stroke of luck that reveals what is already true. But Neo needs to know this, because not only does it give him something to live for, it makes him able to fully believe that he is the one. He needs the knowledge to be able to focus. And the same applies to Callum. He already knows the Sky Arcanum. He already has experience with making spells work. But in order for each new spell to work, he has to be in the right mindset. He needs to know what it's for, and he has to believe he can do it.
Mind, body, and spirit.
He isn't able to make wings because he loves Rayla, but because loving her gives him a need and a purpose to do the spell. And there, in the quiet of naming why he needs the spell, it clears his mind of all the distractions, thereby giving him the focus to complete it. There's the connection. And of course, he catches her and she reciprocates his feelings, and it's just beautiful. I mean, look at this. I want this large scale on my wall, right next to this one. So, Love doesn't exactly give Callum wings, but it sure helps a lot. I will also say this: what is love if not connection? And connection does seem to be an integral part of primal magic, unlike dark magic, which feeds on severing connections. Though primal magic only comes to magical beings from birth, love and connection is natural for all beings in the world. Where dark magic is unnatural, it goes against primordial and divine rules. Dark magic is a way of playing God, and it corrupts people, emphasizing their selfish nature to the point where they cannot see anything but power. If we look at the saying, love gives you wings, in a figurative way, it actually makes a lot of sense too. Because part of the message in the show seems to be that love and connection makes you stronger, better, and more whole. This is also overtly said by King Harrow to Callum in his goodbye letter. He gives Callum a so-called narrative of love, because love raises you to a plane of existence above and beyond what you can achieve on your own. If you work together, you can overcome impossible odds, and there's no better way to forge that bond than through love. If there hadn't been such a strong connection between Rayla and Zim, Callum and Rayla, all would have been lost at the Stormspire. But their love for each other is a link on a chain that binds people together, and this connection is stronger than any obstacle they face. This is the strength King Harrow talks about, and it applies to any kind of love. 1. The love of our complex whole that overcomes all odds. 2. The love parents have for their children. 3. The fellowship of our four main characters. 4. The love between siblings. 5. The love between friends and comrades. And 6. The love between playmates and friends. When it comes to the last two, there's almost another literal example of love giving you wings. Zim has to learn to fly, and it's only through his psychic connection and love for Ezran that they together make it happen. And that moment connects Zim with Callum and Rayla too, giving them the ability to cross into Sadia. Love is strength, love is connection, love is unity. What a wonderful, empowering message. To sum up, love seems to be the key for a great many things in this show. Rayla and Callum's relationship is a brilliant example of two people loving each other both because of who they are and despite who they are. They find what they need in one another, and together they make a compound unity that can prove to be the catalyst for change in the world. Along with Ezran and Zim, Rayla and Callum are major game changers. They're going to break the cycle of hate and violence. But I hope they stay on that path. Rayla leaving for 2 years isn't exactly an example of a great union. They need to prove that elves and humans can coexist, work together, and even love each other in the coming fight against Aravos. I have high hopes though, because unlike Arcane, I think this show will have a somewhat happy ending. I hope Rayla and Callum will be a part of that. Okay, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching. I hope you liked it, even if it wasn't about Arcane. But maybe you noticed how many of the aspects I really like about the Dragon Prince and Raylum are a lot like what I love about Arcane and Violin. I definitely felt that I was repeating myself now and then. Now, if you'll excuse me, I'm off to binge season 4 of The Dragon Prince. Bye!